Welcome here to another edition of TV Africa News. This is Africa Today. My name is Najma Lima, but first are the headlines. Go slow on cracking the whip on the big fish, Museveni warns Betty Kamya. Parliament passes bill on development of oil pipeline. Ugandan Congolese forces continue offensive operations in eastern DRC. And in sports, Ogweti scores penalty as Chagwe edge Islanders Buvuma in close contest. A warm welcome once again. Now the news in detail. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has warned the Inspector General of Government, Betty Kamya, to go slow on corrupt officials lest she scares them to invest their loot abroad. The president said that the lifestyle audit is good, but Kamya has to be careful because government is still lucky that the corrupt officials invest their money in the country. We have more.
President Museveni made these remarks while presiding over the anti-corruption defeat at Kololo on Thursday. Museveni said that Ugandans are still lucky that their corrupt people are corrupt in the country, adding that they steal money and put it here, citing a 5-star hotel from corruption. Museveni warned the IGG that if she only concentrates on the lifestyle, then they will take the money out and there will be no evidence left behind. The president said that the money being stolen is mainly government money and the country will have a problem if the corrupt officials start investing abroad. In her presentation earlier, the IGG Kamya had pledged to start touching the big fish in government who are involved in corruption. Kamya said that the face of corruption is that lavish lifestyle that is not commensurate with a person's legitimate source of income. That expensive car, mansion, those family holidays abroad, expensive schools for one's children. She said that there is a public outcry to arrest some big fish and her team is determined to bring them to book through this campaign. She said that her office is going to change the tactics and move the fight against corruption from being a government's fight to a public fight where the people and children are involved. The day was summed up with the launch of the Lifestyle Audit campaign where President Museveni was a signatory.
The Minister for Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, Joyce Nebosa Sebugwawo, has urged MTN Uganda to arrange meetings with different stakeholders and discuss ways on how to decrease prices of internet for Ugandans. This has been said as the minister led a delegation from the Ministry of ICT to pay a courtesy visit at the MTN Data Center in Mutundwe.
Speaking at the event, Joyce Nebosa Sebugwawo, the State Minister for Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, said Ugandans, especially the common person, have had enough of the costly internet bundles, urging concerned stakeholders to find means of making internet affordable.
But I think it is good if we can organize a meeting with all the stakeholders and we forge a way forward. How best we can do to reduce the price of the internet. Because sincerely, people are still complaining that the prices is very high.
The minister paid a courtesy visit to the MTN Uganda Data Center in Mutundwe, which is the first of many aimed at improving the quality of telecommunications in Uganda. Honorable Sebugwawo applauded the work done by MTN Uganda, pledged to make awareness among Ugandans about the services done by MTN.
We are going to organize a meeting so that we make programs on all radios and TVs to sensitize the public about these services so that they can appreciate.
Since 2018, subscribers have been required to pay a daily tax of 200 Ugandan shillings to use any one of more than 50 OTT mobile communication apps. This includes social media services like Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, messaging and voice communication apps like WhatsApp, which are hugely popular in the country. The government said the tax was intended to raise revenues and curb online gossip. Narugo Muyingo, Africa Today.
Parliament has passed the long-awaited East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill 2021 that will allow the development and implementation of the East African Crude Oil Pipeline project. We have more with Gachanchu.
The East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill 2021, once assented to by the President, will lead to the commencement of the Uganda's oil and gas resources and facilitate the upstream partners to take the long-awaited financial investment decision and development of the petroleum sector. Parliament had spent 3 consecutive days processing the East African Crude Oil Pipeline Special Provisions Bill 2021. With government agreeing and disagreeing with the opposition on a number of clauses in the bill. In particular, Clause 46 generated a serious debate in the House where some legislators opposed it, arguing the act cannot be supremacy of all acts, including the Constitution, as proposed by the government. The bill that has been passed, according to the government chief whip Thomas Tayebwa, will allow the development and implementation of the East African Crude Oil Pipeline project. The new law has also addressed issues of compensation in areas where the pipeline is to pass.
Let's take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. United Nations peacekeepers in DR Congo have signed an agreement with the country's armed forces to facilitate joint operations against armed groups troubling the east of the vast nation. They said that the Congolese Army's guidelines for joint operations set down procedures for enabling operations by the UN mission, MONUSCO, and the FARDC.
The accord was signed at Congolese Army headquarters on Tuesday by the country's Armed Forces Chief of Staff, General Celestin Mbala, and the commander of the UN forces in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Afonso da Costa, according to an AFP reporter. The agreement coincides with a crackdown by Congolese and Ugandan troops on the bloodiest of the estimated 122 armed groups in the region. MONUSCO is one of the biggest and costliest UN peacekeeping operations, with around 16,000 military and police and an annual budget of more than $1 billion. But it has drawn criticism over its effectiveness in the fight against armed groups that plague the country's east, especially the Allied Democratic Forces.
Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said on Wednesday that he was returning to Addis Ababa from the battlefront after pro-government forces claimed major advances in their fight against Tigrayan rebels. The government on Monday said pro-Abiy forces had retaken the strategic towns of Delsi and Kombolcha, the latest town in the 13-month-old war.
Linked by the United States to the Islamic State, the ADF has been blamed for thousands of deaths in the Beni area and for recent blasts in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Mbala said the new guidelines should enable more of the municipal forces to take on a combat role rather than be restricted to an observer role under the UN's rules of engagement. On November 30th, Ugandan forces launched strikes on ADF positions in a joint operation with the Democratic Republic of Congo and followed this up by deploying troops on the Congolese side of the border. After the Tigray People's Liberation Front rebel group reported significant territorial gains as part of a march towards Addis Ababa, Abiy announced last month that he would head to the battlefront, handing over his regular duties to his deputy. Since then, state media has broadcast images of a uniformed Abiy, a former lieutenant colonel in the military, as fighting reportedly raged on at least 3 fronts. On Wednesday, the 2019 Nobel Peace Prize winner said that he was returning to the office as he had completed the first phase of the conflict. In recent days, the government has announced the recapture of several small towns, including the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Lalibela, which is famed for its 12th century rock-quaint churches. The TPLF has dismissed the government's claims, saying the rebels were making strategic withdrawals and remained undefeated. Fears of a rebel march on Addis Ababa has prompted countries such as the United States, France and Britain to urge their citizens to leave Ethiopia as soon as possible, although Abiy's government says the city is secure. Olusegun Obasanjo, the African Union's peace envoy for the Horn of Africa, is leading a push to broker a ceasefire, but little progress has been reported so far. The surging conflict has fueled fears of a potential spillover into the fragile East African region, with Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta last month urging both parties to lay down their arms.
Moving on, Burkina Faso's government resigned on Wednesday night after several protests by the population denouncing its inability to fight recurrent jihadist attacks that plague the West African country every week. Christopher Joseph Dabile, Burkina Faso's Prime Minister, submitted a letter of resignation to President Roch Marc Christian Kabore on Wednesday, who accepted it.
The Secretary General of the government, Stefan Wenceslas Sano, reading a presidential decree on public television, said that it has put an end to the functions of the Prime Minister, Mr. Dabire. The resignation of the Prime Minister automatically entails the resignation of the government, according to Burkina Faso law. Sano said that in accordance with the law, the members of the outgoing government are responsible for the day-to-day running of the ministerial departments until a new government is formed. Dabire said on his Facebook page invited all Burkinabe to mobilize to support the president of Faso and the new executive that will be put in place. For several weeks, anger has been building against the executive branch. On November 9th, the opposition demanded urgent measures to address the deteriorating security situation within a month. And on December 27, hundreds of demonstrators descended on the capital Ouagadougou to denounce the inability of the government to counter the jihadist violence that has struck the country. The current government is faced with the frustration of the population in the face of the jihadist attacks that strike the country every week. They have killed about 2,000 people and have displaced 1.4 million since 2015.
Away from that, Ghana's President Nana Akufo-Addo has expressed his determination to protect the country's democracy amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. The president said this on Thursday during a virtual summit on democracy, where he recounted some challenges the country has faced during the pandemic. We have more in this report.
Akufo said that it is that attachment to democratic values and institutions that are determined to protect even during this crisis that they have been going through the pandemic, adding that by the grace of God, it's been more or less under control. The summit hosted leaders from government, civil society, and the private sector. The summit focused on challenges and opportunities facing democracies and provided a platform for leaders to make both individual and collective commitments to defend democracy and human rights around the world. Invited governments were tasked to develop commitments focused on strengthening their own democracies in their areas, fighting corruption, countering authoritarianism, and promoting human rights. A second summit is expected in 2022 to take stock of the progress made and forge a common path ahead.
Let's once again take a quick break. We will be right back. Welcome back. You're still watching TV Africa News, the right to know. In our business news today, Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurated recently acquired warships and a seaward defense boat built locally by naval engineers at the Naval Dockyard in Lagos to bolster the Navy's effort in the fight against maritime criminality in the Gulf of Guinea.
Speaking at the event, President Buhari said the new injections to the naval fleet would boost their capability in securing Nigeria's maritime domain. Buhari said that they should note that they are in a critical period where their country is faced with a serious decline in their revenue and the security challenges they are facing. Buhari added that despite these challenges, their administration is very determined to ensure that the Navy is well supported to achieve its statutory responsibilities. Previously, the Nigerian Senate had called on Buhari to take over and revamp one of the largest ships on the fleet of the Nigerian Navy. The motion was sponsored by 15 lawmakers in the lower house. President Buhari came for the commissioning of the third sword defense boat christened NNSOG built by the Naval Dockyard. The world has seen an increase in the number of piracy attacks on ships from 162 in 2019 to 195 in 2002 according to statistics. Waters off the Nigerian coast experienced the highest number of attacks in 2020, with over 35 cases reported off the coast of the country.
In our health news today, a South Africa health official warned on Wednesday that they are seeing a spike in hospital admissions in the country, despite suggestions that the new Omicron variant could be milder.
Dr. Wasila Jasat, who monitors the week-on-week increase in hospitalization inside the transmissibility of the variant, meant that even though the percentage of cases admitted to hospital was relatively low, the overall increase in the number of the infections caused the record numbers of hospitalizations. Jasat added that the majority of those who have been hospitalized are unvaccinated, with another researcher in Tshwane district also finding the same. It comes as Pfizer said on Wednesday that a booster dose of its COVID-19 vaccine may offer important protection against the new Omicron variant, even though the initial 2 doses appear significantly less effective. Omicron, discovered late last month, carries an unusual large number of mutations, and scientists are racing to learn how easily it spread, whether it causes illness that is more serious or milder than other coronavirus types, and how much it might evade the protection of prior vaccinations.
In sports today, Chagwe out Masud Islanders Buvuma 1-0 during the second Bolange Group game in the Masaza Cup 2021 at Fufa Technical Center in Jeru on Thursday 9th December. Robust forward Gerard Mwenda Ogweti scored the lone goal of the game on the hour mark. Kachanchi has more.
Gerard Ogweti's goal was a well-struck penalty past goalkeeper Kalema following handball incident by Pascal Wabanda. Before the goal, Chagwe had been the better side and created the most clear-out goal-scoring opportunities. Dennis Kalanzi and Captain Amuli Mukasa hit the crossbar in different incidents before Ogweti's breakthrough moment. The best opportunity for Buvuma to level matters was to Ronald Andabati, but his shot missed target by inches from close range. Chagwe, like the Bulange group leaders Busiro, all have 3 points, with Busiro having more goals scored. A 10-man Busiro overcame a hard-fighting Bugerere 2-1 during the early kick-off. Herbert Kibirango and Robert Sentongo were on target for Busiro. Hudson Imbalire found the consolation for Bugerere.
That wraps up our news today. Stay tuned on TV Africa. More programming coming your way.